So, those that can't be with us, this is just a little introduction into the church that the funeral is going to take place in. It's a church. It's absolutely beautiful. It's very old as a church, very traditionally English, and I think it's about 300 years old, but it's a very small little parish church that we have lived next to for 45 years and have seen many different occasions in this church, so it is very fitting that it takes place in here. Right, so you need to stand here, so if you're a statue, hold this up like this the entire time.
But why don't you just make him hold it?
That's Jesus. Yeah.
Well, good afternoon. It is wonderful to see you. Welcome to St John's. My name is Debbie, the Reverend Debbie Smith, and it's my absolute pleasure and privilege to lead this service for John and for you, family and friends, as we gather to remember him and to celebrate his life. A few short words by way of introduction. The Christian faith, which I hold to, believes that every life is precious to God. And the Christian faith offers the perspective that through the death and the resurrection of Jesus, we have the hope that there is life after death. And that even when we grieve and we are sorrowful, God is with us. So this is a special occasion. We've come to remember and celebrate the life of John Denman Benson, who died on the 1st of June. We've come to give thanks for him and to commend him to God's love and keeping. We've also come to find some comfort and to support from one another as we come to terms with our loss. When somebody that we love has died, there is no right or wrong way to feel. Some of us need silence, time to be quiet and time to be alone. Others of us need company and conversation. However we might be feeling at this time, we can be assured that we're held in the love of God. So this afternoon and through this time, we stand alongside John's family, especially Stephanie, who I met for the first time just over a week ago. It was absolutely delightful, and heard so much about the family, Will and Tom. And so for them and other family members and friends, welcome. We offer each of you our love and our support through this time. So although we've been parted from John, we can be assured that none of us need ever be separated from the love of God. Let me pray. We remember, Lord, the slenderness of the thread which separates life from death, and the suddenness with which it can be broken. Help us also to remember that on both sides of that division, we are surrounded by your love. Persuade our hearts that when our loved ones die, neither we nor they are parted from you. In our loss, help us to hold one another in love. Strengthen us, comfort us, enable our tears and hear our sighs, and show us that death will never overcome the light of your love. Amen. So Stephanie has given me memories of John to read to you, some of the story of his life and the legacy that he leaves. John's parents died early in their 60s, leaving Francis, Annette, Patricia and John dependent on each other. Frances was already married and living in London. She used to welcome John into her household and keep an eye on him. John, Annette and Patricia lived at Highview Road in Guildford, and John in his turn looked after his sisters and was a wonderful brother to them through what were difficult times. John and Stephanie met at Christmas during nights at the post office in Guildford. They were married in 1971 in this very church here, St John's Church. In his wedding speech, Harvey, Steph's father, said that Steph was sorting the mails. I'm not sure whether that's M-A-L-E-S or M-A-I-L-S. You can make of that what you like. He and Stephanie lived in the house at Highview Road, John working in London and Steph teaching at Godalming Grammar School. They then moved to Old Barn Lane in Churt, where John started bringing an old Lloyd George orchard back to life. Steph's father helped him as he actually knew what he was doing. John worked at Marplan Market Research Company in London. One day he came home and said, "One of us is going to give up work and it's going to be me." And Applegarth was born. He loved working on the land and growing soft fruit. He loved Applegarth. Applegarth was derelict and Grade 3 agricultural land, and he spent a great deal of time improving the soil by doing a muck run up and down from Mary Peters' cattle farm. He cleared and fenced and built a barn, now the farm shop and restaurant. He took fruit up to Western Internal Market and decided that we should open a farm shop and bring fruit and vegetables back from market. He was very, very proud of his two boys, Will and Tom, and shared great times with them. Family was very important to him, and he basked in their love. He was a popular visitor to the Crossways pub in Church, which was on his way home. Sadly, he had a catastrophic stroke which cut him down, and he went to live in Huntington House nursing home, which is owned by Steph's sister and run by her family. Extended family looked after him really well there, and he became a popular member of that community. Expert in non-verbal communication and content with his lot, he stayed in Huntington House until he died, allowing all of us to make our peace with him. Steph, I loved that last phrase, enabling all of us to make our peace with him. That's such an important part of us finding comfort in our grief. Thank you. So we're now going to hear one of John's favourite tracks, Feeling Good by Nina Simone. Thank you, Charles.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a new life for me, yeah. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a new life for me. Ooh, and I'm feeling
Sarah, John's niece, you're now going to bring an ode to John. Thank you.
Applegarth Farm, a place to remember. Good food, great. Good food, great shop. Heart at the centre. Old clothes, puzzles, bikes and shoes. All at the car boot sales, nothing to lose. Most of John's time spending at the crossways. Stay for one more, John, they used to say. Marrying Steph till death do us part. A lucky man with a dodgy heart. Loving Will and Tom with a beer in his hand. Saying trouble, seeing my baby scans. Making a few bob, collecting garden waste. Then burning it, 4 fire engines to that Applegarth place. Reversing the tractor down the A3, not wanting to pay for the recovery. Oh John, oh John, oh John, they say. Always doing it the Benson way.
Thank you, Sarah. A man much loved. We're now going to hear another favourite track of John's, Patter Patter by Miriam Makeba. Thank you.
Hey!
Well, and Tom, over to you.
Actually, Karen is going to read a piece from John's sister Pat.
Excellent, thank you.
Remembering my brother John. Hello everyone. My brother John was a special man, good-natured and kind. John was a big family man and proud of his heritage. He was very knowledgeable about our family history and had many stories to tell about the Bensons. I have wonderful memories of happy times spent with him, Steph, and the boys at Applegarth on my visits home to the UK. I'd ask him to pick me up at the airport, and he'd grumble about my flight arriving so early in the morning, but he'd always be there on time. I have a short story to tell. Remembering back to the early years when John and I were living at home in Guildford, John had bought a new, shiny, black car, which he proudly parked on the driveway. Being the patient brother he was, he offered to teach his youngest sister how to drive. All went well, until unfortunately, I lost control and backed the car into our next door neighbour's wall. John took it all in his stride and wasn't upset with me about the damage to the car. In later years, we'd remember it and have a good laugh about it. And I can't remember what happened to the car. John, you're the best. I'll never forget you, Pat.
We're here today not to mourn for my father, but to celebrate the colourful life that he lived. The last years were challenging for us as a family, but since his passing, it feels like a fog has lifted and I'm now able to remember him for who he was. I have so many incredible memories of an amazing upbringing in which he figures so heavily. Applegarth was the love of his life, and he did an incredible job of realising its potential from the moment he breached through the hedge and started selling the produce that he grew. His farming practices were generally pretty good, albeit he had blatantly read from the book on how to take the most efficient route on getting something done. In other words, how to wing it. When I came down to the farm, I suggested that we could find a new revenue stream by allowing green waste producers like tree surgeons and landscapers to drop off their waste for a fee. We would then mulch the waste down and sell it as compost. It went extremely well, bar the mulching part, which left us with a 2-acre field 10 foot high with green waste. The solution, bring in a big lorry-sized German mulching machine, break the waste down over a few days and sell it to the biomass plant in Woking. Nope, that's not what would be the environmentally appropriate thing to do. Much better, apparently, was to wait until the morning of his once-a-week car boot sale and then pour petrol over the entire lot and set fire to it. I'd been clubbing in London the night before, and upon breaching the brow of the Hog's Back just after Guildford, I spied what looked like the whole of Hankley Common on fire, a huge plume of smoke rising up. It took 8 fire engines, 10 hours sucking water out of French and big ponds to put it out. However, the chap at the car boot sale selling builder's masks did a roaring trade. His great love for burning things continued unabated. A few years later, he decided that having amassed wood pallets and other detritus for a month, that having a bonfire on the hottest day of the year was absolutely the right thing to do. I had a blazing row with him about it and stormed off to my office. The next thing I knew, there were these loud bangs coming from the area. Upon investigation, that was the noise of the tyres blowing off the horse box and one of the cars next to it ablaze. And there was Dad, hair singed, blackened to the face, standing there with a tiny stream of water piddling out of a hosepipe while he valiantly tried to put out the enormous fire. This time, however, the fire engines had enough water on board, negating the need to empty French and Big Lock ponds. And talking of digging a hole for himself, it reminds me of the moment when, after 3 years of extremely difficult negotiations on gaining the planning permission for the 80-house residential development on the farm, I was asked in the sale documents as to whether I knew of anything untowards encumbering the land. I don't know whether it was fortunate or not that due to Dad's stroke, he couldn't tell me where he'd buried the Ford box van, the caravan, and various other things he had no use for. Out of sight, out of mind comes into whole new light when you're 10 feet down in a mini digger. As much as I can make light of him now, I can also be incredibly proud of him. I was not the easiest of teenagers, but whatever I threw at him, he would respond with love and unwavering backing. At 4 p.m. every day, he would come into the office with a cup of tea and we would discuss the current situation. I have sorely missed his pragmatic viewpoint and would love to have had just one more chat. Rest in peace, JB.
Wish you'd sent that to me before. Hi everyone, it's lovely to see you all. I won't be too long. Dad was never one for the limelight. Dad was a quiet soul, but he was always there to support no matter what you asked from him, whether it was just listening or picking up on the side of the road with my bike about 6 years ago when it was dark and 40 minutes away from home. He always dropped everything he was doing to help. He loved his sisters, Annette, Patricia and Frances, and enjoyed the time spent with you all, and it was lovely to see the reconnection on a more regular basis when he was in the nursing home. I know he enjoyed your visits when it was allowed. I'm sure he also enjoyed being waited hand and foot by the lovely nurses up there, some of you who are here today. Even when he couldn't find the words, he managed to get his sense of humour across to people. He loved watching TV in his downtime, especially sport and a good western. I would often get the chance to stay up late when I should have been in bed if the golf, rugby or any western with Clint Eastwood was on. It was our together and chatting time and continued all the way through the years. Maybe the westerns gave him his love for sitting on a tractor and trundling around as he couldn't sit on the side of a horse. His love of a tractor or lawnmower didn't come without its dangers, though. I remember one day I was up checking the horses at the farm when I came across a burnt-out ride-on lawnmower. I then noticed Dad had very singed eyebrows when I next saw him. I asked what had happened. He told me it had exploded when he tried to fill the petrol up when the engine was still running. His reasoning for not turning it off was because he had trouble starting it that morning and didn't want to risk that happening again. He did have his particular own brand of doing things. His love of shortcuts often led him down a strange road, the A3 being one of them. In his farming heyday, he had a wonderful Massey Ferguson 365 tractor, which he loved. One morning the gearbox went, and he couldn't drive forward. Reverse was the only gear working. After the garage in Lippert said they couldn't collect it and he'd have to transport it himself, and not wanting the added cost, Dad decided he'd drive it to them. Somehow, he managed to navigate himself not only to Lippert 6 miles away, but also down the A3 in reverse. I often wonder what the many motorists were thinking as they passed him on the A3, and whether every now and again he would give them a nod, like it was a perfectly normal day. He also liked to drink down the crossways, a few hundred yards away from where we are now, and would pick me up from school on a Friday, lock up the farm, and head home, stopping off at the pub for a few pints of Courage Best and a packet of cheese and onion crisps, as seen below the table. Actually, that's tea, isn't it? It's not Courage. Couldn't find them in Courage, there weren't any cans anyway. I'd get my 50p's worth of Friday sweets and sit there listening to all the men at the bar chatting about their week and buying each other drinks. It was my first learning experience of adult life, and hearing Dad being called John the Farm. After 30 years, the pub hasn't changed, internally or externally, and I often find myself in there with my friends, watching the same older faces, sitting at the same seats, talking about their weeks, and buying each other drinks, and sometimes asking how John is. It always gives me a chance to reminisce and picture him in his corner, drinking his pint and eating his crisps. The farm was Dad's life, and also ours as children. We would spend time exploring or helping with odd jobs and fruit picking. From coming in after raspberry picking purple, or managing to let all the rabbits out of the play area, Dad would never really get cross. He had plenty to be cross about at times, but never raised his voice. He just gave a look, and you knew what he was thinking. The main times his frustration came out and his voice raised was when we had eaten all the cheese and crisps and the penguins. The biscuits, not the animals. Without telling him. He also wasn't one for a crisis. Even when in 87, during the hurricane, he jumped out of his car to answer a phone in the farm shop, and 30 seconds later, a tree snapped in half and crushed it right over the driver's side. At no point, talking about it later, did he seem at all fazed by it. I think possibly this is why I seem to be quite good in stressful situations, or have patience when others are crapping around me. Dad spent much of his older years up at the farm, cutting grass on the ride-on lawnmowers he hadn't managed to blow up, and sitting, having a cup of tea overlooking the land. I think he felt at ease up there, and that was his space to wander and wonder. I'm sure some of the now residents up at the farm may hear from time to time the humming of a Massey Ferguson 365, or wonder why someone's cutting grass at 1 a.m. Let's just hope it's not the sound of an explosion. Rest up.
Thank you. And now I'm going to listen to another track, favourite of John's, Sailing by Rod Stewart. What a wonderful man that we celebrate and remember. Family man, patient, supportive, full of fun, adventurous, pioneering. He leaves behind a great legacy and many memories. As we come towards the close of this time, let's just be quiet for a moment and in the silence of our hearts, hold John into the love of God. And I just invite you to remember him as best you remember him, giving thanks for his life. And if there was anything that was ever difficult, just to let go of that. Let's just be still for a moment. God, who holds us all with arms of love and compassion, knows all we feel and endure at this time, and invites us to lean upon his love. Can I invite you to stand as we share in a final blessing and as we go on our way. And so we go into the world glad that we have loved, free to weep for John, free to hold each other in our human frailty, and empowered to live our lives to the full. May you know God's love, God's peace, God's comfort and provision. And so I pray on each of you the blessing of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, to be with you and remain with you and those whom you love and carry in your heart this day and always. Amen. Thank you for joining us in this time. Thank you, Stephanie.